you really caught my attention because of the language that you use when you speak.
Oh, okay. What do you mean?
The way that you talk about infidelity and the way that you assign responsibility to the different people involved. Because I seriously, you and I, we have something in common. And it's not that it's hatred, but I hated the way that infidelity content spoke to people.
My issue is, and that's what got me started on talking about it, is the perception. It's okay, you are the mistress. You are the other person. That means you leave your house in the low-cut red dresses and the high heels with your scarlet red lipstick out pursuing some married man. No, that is so not the case. 95% of the time. I think there are a few, but not the majority. And for me, it's like what I went through, even now, still going through with this woman. I'm like, oh, no, we're not going to do that.
I can't wait to get into it. Okay, so since we are recording, let's go ahead and get into who you are and just give us a brief introduction of what you're doing on the internet and some of how you've been spending your time lately and how our paths ended up crossing.
Okay, so everybody calls me Mama Call.
Mama Call?
Because I am like everybody's mother. I want everybody to be okay. I will do whatever I have to be okay. And I started posting normal, I call it riffraff on TikTok about 2 years ago, journaling my artwork, my weight loss journey, all of that. And then I got caught up in an affair. And things kind of progressed, and I stayed away from that topic on the internet, like when we were dating and even afterwards, until his wife started stalking me. And the way it all came about was she sent me an email and it said, how would you like if I went all over the internet and put that you were a home wrecker and you chased married men?
You were like, let me do it for you.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to call your bluff. And I'm going to do it myself. And I did. I made my first video and I said, okay, here's the deal. I was involved with a married man that I knew was married. I met him on a dating website and I started telling the story. And people were engaging, but not in a negative way. And they were like, oh my God, like this really happens. Yes, this really happens. And then my youngest sister said, you need to go live and you need to talk about this. And I started thinking about it because I've always wanted to help people in all aspects of life. And I said, you know what? If I do this, I'm going to talk about the most vulnerable experience of my life, where people would say that is the most shameful thing you've ever done, because it allows other people to say, hey, wait, if she's willing to do it, maybe I can do it too. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all grew and evolved. And now I do a support group every night of the week live on TikTok. And we support everything though. It's not just, it's the APs. Listen, we have a lot of betrayed spouses that come in there and talk and they see it from my side and they're like, wow, we never thought about it that way. Or I'm sorry that you went through this. And then we talk about other things, addiction, recovery, grief, loss, all of that. And then I came across you because you had actually left a comment on one of my videos. This other creator that I saw her video and I was like, what is this woman doing? Who is she to speak on every person's, not all, but most people's mental health?
Yeah.
And I posted a video kind of stitching it and you left a comment. So I went onto your channel and I was like, I love this woman. And then I started seeing comments that people were leaving on your posts and people now call me the self-proclaimed bully crusher. So I have started a movement called Be a Better Human, which is casting your judgment, your beliefs, your opinion on a situation you know nothing about. Mm-hmm. And I guess my line now is If you're embarrassed by the things that you say, maybe you shouldn't say them. So that's kind of like where I'm at this point. And I don't just take them off yours. I do take them off other people's.
No, I love it. I love it because it was like when I first started, it was really easy for me to stand kind of in the way of whatever animosity was being projected and like
Right.
laugh silly haha at it. And then as everything started to grow and develop, I was like, oh, my time is better spent doing something else. And then
Right.
you came along and I was like, oh my God. He reminds me so much of me in the beginning because honestly, I have to credit that creator with what I've built today, at least in part, because I'll say that I think anytime you find content that really moves you, it's meaningful. And her content moved me to a place of I needed to speak up because I felt that all of the content that she had derived was more centered around hate and lacked a lot of
Yes.
self-compassion. And so
Right.
instead of complaining about the problem, I was like, I'll solve it.
Well, and so I am an ordained minister. I'm not a Christian minister. I am a pagan minister. And I didn't get it from Universal Life Church. I actually went to school because people, you can go online and pay $20 and get an ordination. Now, I have my bachelor's degree. I went to school for it. I am a spiritual counselor. And my thing was, I have a big problem with people presenting themselves as a professional in any way and not behaving like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw her first video, I thought, this can't be a therapist. There's no way this woman is a counselor. I'm hearing what she's saying and she sounds like she wants to be, but she's not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I really became enraged when I saw it. I'm like, how many women, even the betrayed partner, are watching her thinking, okay, this is good mental health advice. And I'm going to listen to it because that must be what happens in my world. No, she is a woman that had an affair and then woke up and saw the light one day. Okay, good for you. You weren't involved in mine. You don't know what happened. You weren't involved in anybody else's to speak on what most people would do.
Totally.
So that's kind of where that's what fuels my fire.
So Colleen, I'd love to hear more about your story, your personal experience with infidelity. You had mentioned that you had met him on a dating site, so I imagine he was there looking to date while
yes.
married?
Okay. Well, it's actually it's a long story as in over many years. And we're going to say 2010 because I don't remember the exact year. I was single. My kids were young, but not little. I went onto a dating site. I came across this guy, had the most crystal blue eyes I had ever seen. He was a police officer, which I've always had a thing for cops and firemen. And it's a whole psychological thing. It's a safety thing. I know that now. But I came across him and we chatted for a couple of days and then we talked on the phone. He told me he was separated. We met. We had a great time. Now we dated for a year. About a year in, I said, are you legally divorced yet? And he was like, yeah, I am. He didn't talk about it. And I just assumed in my naivety that it was something like it struck a nerve. So he didn't want to talk about it. About a year after that, I got a text message while I was at work one day and it said, hey, I need to tell you something. And I kind of like my stomach dropped and I was like, what's up? And he goes, I'm still married. And I was like, what? So I did the normal thing. I went to the bathroom. I cried, agreed to meet with him 2 days later at a bar restaurant. And this is exactly what he said to me. My wife and I decided to work things out. And I'm thinking, work things out. He told me a year ago you were divorced, but I just left that alone. And he said, yeah, for our kids. And I said, I've always been of the mindset that it's better to raise children in 2 happy homes than 1 unhappy home. And I could probably accept it more if you told me you were sticking around because financially it was easier. Mm-hmm. I know the laws in the state of New York. I know as far as pensions and alimony and everything else. So I left the restaurant that night and I had nothing else to say to him because in my head, you lied and you told me you were divorced. I heard from him maybe a year later and the message was, "Hey babe, been thinking about you. You should meet me." And I replied back and I said, "Hey babe, I am with someone. I'm actually getting married and I really don't want to hear from you again." And that was it. I did not hear from him, never spoke to him again for 10 years. I got married. I spent 9 years in a very emotional and mentally abusive marriage.
Okay.
My divorce papers were filed in 2002. I put a lot of work into myself. I lost 157 pounds.
Wow.
I really took back control of my life. In December of 2022, actually December 30th, my divorce papers were signed by the judge. I was legally divorced. On December 31st, I was on another dating website because I thought I was great. I'm like, I am so healthy now. I'm mentally healthy. I go onto this dating site. They had, because I don't pay for the sites, but they had a special New Year's weekend, $2.99, and you could see all the people that liked you. And I was like, all right, $2.99, I could swing it. I'm scrolling through and I saw the picture and I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I swiped right and I sent a message and I said, "Do you even remember me?" And I got no reply. And then I went back to the profile and I scrolled down and I was like, oh, that is definitely him. And I sent another message and I said, oh no, I'm sorry. The first message said, "I think I know you." The second message said, "Oh, I definitely know you. Do you even remember me?" So New Year's Day, he messages me back and he's, "Oh my God, of course I remember you. How could I ever forget you? You're absolutely stunning." You're like just all of the garbage that you would expect someone to say. We then went over to text messages from the app. And I said, "I'm moving to Maryland in March." And he's like, "Why are you moving to Maryland?" And I'm like, "I want to get out of New York and I'm just getting divorced. I can't afford to live here on my own. So I'm leaving." And he's like, "That's okay. We can have lots of dates between now and when you leave. And then once you leave, we can meet halfway." So I said to him that day, I said, "Here's the big question. Are you still married?" And then he proceeded to remind me of all of the wonderful things that we did 10 years prior.
So he evaded the question altogether?
Completely evaded the question. And it was, "I thought about you over the years. I looked for you." And then finally, after about an hour of all of this, and what he was doing was setting the groundwork of, "You were so important to me. I never forgot about you." And then he came back in a message and he said, "So the answer to the big question is yes." So in my head, I'm thinking, you know what? I'll go out to dinner with the guy. I'll get closure from 10 years ago. I'll have a nice dinner. We always had a good time. And that'll be that. So that was January 1st. On January 6th, we met for dinner and he again laying the groundwork. I told him all about my marriage. I told him how horrible things were. And the first thing he told me was about this tragic thing that happened in his life with his grandchild. And I'm like, okay, now in hindsight, I'm like, he was pulling on the heartstrings. And I looked at him that night and I said, "Okay, so why are you dating if you're married? And why are you telling me you want a relationship? You know, it's different if you're just playing the field, but like you're saying you want a real relationship. You want this in your life." And he said, "I love her, but I'm not in love with her. And quite honestly, it's cheaper to keep her." And now 2 of his friends were at dinner with us. And he said, "You can even ask," and we'll call him Bob. "You can even ask Bob. He went through it." Okay. It is cheaper to keep her. I know I can estimate how much you make a year. I know how much you would get in alimony. You're right. It is. I also asked him how many girlfriends he had had over the 10 years. And he said 3. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this woman is just not engaged in what he's doing. Maybe she doesn't care. Maybe they really aren't very unhappy. And then things just kind of went out of control. I mean, now I see all the red flags and I think to myself, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? But we went away a couple of weeks later, went to Atlantic City. His friends were there. The friend's girlfriend was there. And I'm thinking, okay, obviously he just doesn't care. He doesn't care. He had a plan. He was going to, because I asked him if he was ever going to come see me in Maryland. And he said, yeah. And I said, how are you going to do that if she tracks your phone? And he said, I'm going to get a room in Atlantic City. I'm going to leave my phone in the room. And then, because I only live an hour outside of Atlantic City, I'll leave my phone in the room and then I'll just come to your house, because he had 2 phones. Okay, great. Now we're going to fast forward all the way to July. And there was months of being ignored and being stood up and not hearing from him for days on end. And then he would pop up again. And he knew that I was very much in love with him all those years ago. And it doesn't go away, right? It doesn't just go away. Oh, wait, let me back up a minute. The first night we're together, he said to me that night, when I marry you someday, are we still going to do this? And I said, do what? And he said, have date night. And my response to that was, you have a third party that makes it impossible for you to ask that question. But if you ever solve that problem, then sure, I believe in date nights and all that other stuff. We got together again in June in Atlantic City. And again in June, it was when I marry you someday. Actually, that time it was, when I marry you someday, are we going to live in your house or are you going to sell your house and we'll buy one together? So he really
planning for the future.
Right. Yeah. And he knew I just bought my house in March. I believed him. He was very good at what he was saying, what he was doing.
I mean, but he was also very honest with you when you were asking him point blank questions. Are you still married? And he's, yes, cheaper to keeper. Right. Like, he was pretty forthcoming.
And that's why I believed him, because I'm like, he told me straight out. Yes, I've had 3 girlfriends. Told me straight out he was still married, and this is why he was married.
When did he become someone that you could no longer believe?
Actually, it was the first weekend in June. I realized then that something was like, okay, I need to reassess this. But the way I explained it is, logically, I knew I needed to reassess what was happening. But emotionally, I was so attached.
And the investment was already there for both of you.
Right. I put so much into him just over the course of the 6 months or 5 months or whatever it was. On July the 11th, and it gets so twisted, July the 11th. Now, he was supposed to meet me in Atlantic City on July 13th. Mm-hmm. July 11th, I got a text message at 4 a.m, and his ringtone was like this loud, blaring alarm message, because he worked overnights, and I wanted to make sure if he texted me, I heard the phone. So my phone's going off at 4 a.m, and I get a message, and it said, he's not going now or ever again. Signed, his wife.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
But I thought, because now I had gotten played so severely in the beginning of June, that I thought it was him. I thought he was trying to figure out how to back out of going. And I replied back, and all it said was WTF with teen question marks. And she was like, you think you're upset? Imagine how I feel with him sleeping right here next to me. And I see he sent you pictures of our anniversary to Lake George and sent me a picture of the 2 of them. And my reply back was, I don't know any woman that would allow her husband to stay sleeping next to her when she is communicating with his girlfriend after finding messages. Because again, I'm thinking that it's her or him. Mm-hmm. She came back and I am blocking your number. Okay, block my number. I And I did try to call it like a half an hour later, and it said the number was not in service. And I'm like, all right, wow, that was really hard. She blocked my number. Okay. Oh, he's in for trouble. But I found his Facebook and I sent him a message. And all the message said was, so that's it. Just like that, I'm nothing. And that was it. That was the message said. And they're like, no, you know what? I'm done. I deleted it because you can unsend on Messenger. But I didn't know that when you unsend, it still shows up as a message unsent.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that his wife monitored his Facebook.
Oh.
I'm telling you, it's almost, and my joke now is the police officer that lives in jail because everything he does is monitored.
Oh my God.
Everything.
Police officers who cheat are the ones who have created their own prisons. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She tracks his car, his phone, his email, his text message, his Facebook, everything.
Why does anybody want a job like that where you're monitoring somebody else?
I don't know. So
you don't even get paid for that job.
She gets paid for it.
What? Neurosis?
No, this picture perfect life. That's the picture perfect life. And now I already knew that she was stalking my Facebook because he told me, but we'll get to that in a minute. So about 7:30 that morning, I get a text from him, from his phone number, and it said, hey, text me when you get a chance. And I replied back and all it said was what? In all capitals with the exclamation marks. And he's, what's wrong? And I'm like, what's wrong? You really need me to tell you what's wrong? And he's, what's going on? And I'm like, your wife was texting me. And he's, I know. I said, do you need me to send you screenshots of what was said? And he's, yes, please. So I sent him all the screenshots and I'm like, that's it. It's done. And this is what he said to me. He's, do you want it to be done? Because I don't want it to be done. I don't want to be without you in my life. I don't ever want to be without you. And I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. So the whole month of July, he was bombarding me. Like, he was so communicative. And I thought, like, he really portrayed it like he was more worried about losing me than his wife.
Mm.
Messages off.
You don't think that could be true?
No. I'm not going to say that. Do I think that he was in love with me? I do. But I also think that he has done this so many times that he doesn't really understand what love is at this point. Like, as long as it's safe.
You said he's done this so many times. You mean the times that he did it with you, or?
No, the 4 other affairs. So there were these repeated affairs. So sometimes I think to myself, he was in love with me. And I have been told, and we'll get to that part of the story, but I have been told that her issue with me, the wife, even today, is that her husband was in love with me.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm an amazing person. Who wouldn't be?
One of my favorite lines by, I think it's James Sexton. He says that often when infidelity is discovered, the woman will ask, did you fall in love with her? And the man will ask, did you sleep with him? And
really?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting insight into how differently women and men become hurt.
Right.
With a man, it's like a territorial thing. And with a woman, it like has everything to do with the heart.
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, I can see where that is. So I'll go back to that statement after I tell you the rest of it, and then you'll understand why. So the whole month of July, back and forth, to the point where he had asked me to come to New York for 2 days. He was going to get me a hotel room. We were going to spend 2 days together. He was going to take time off of work. And I'm thinking, how are you going to do that? Like, your wife caught you. She is watching you 10 times harder than she was before. Okay, obviously you just don't care if she catches you again. And you asked me when I started to rethink everything. It started in June, but by August, I was like, okay, this is just not healthy for me. I went to New York. It's 4 hours from my house. I drove to New York. I sat in a parking lot waiting for him for 2 hours. Then I sat at the hotel. We were going to go to dinner. Just incredibly inconsiderate. Incredibly inconsiderate. And 2 days turned into 6 hours. So I drove over 400 miles, 8 hours round trip for you to spend 6 hours with me. I'm like, no, this is just not cool. I started to rethink it. Before I went to New York, he told me, please don't post anything because my wife is looking at your Facebook. And I was like, oh, I'm sure she is. I'm sure she is. Through the whole month, she was texting me. She was nice 1 minute. Then she was sending me the FU emojis. Then she was sending me the little poo emojis. Then she was nice again. I'd had to send this message to 4 other women. And I questioned him on that. And I'm like, really? Really 4? And he was like, I promise you are the only person I am with. I am not with anybody else. She's trying to make you mad at me. She's trying to make you hate me. This went on the whole month of July. I didn't say one word. I didn't acknowledge her. I said nothing. When I came back in August, she was texting me again. And this is where I say, like, my logical side knew what was happening, but my emotional side didn't want to accept it because I made every excuse in the book for him. Maybe his wife caught him when he got home the next morning, or maybe she smelled my perfume on him, or maybe something happened, or so that I came home on a Thursday. On a Friday, she started texting me again.
Isn't it interesting, Colleen, that you go to fault yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I've done a lot of work on myself in the last 9 months. So at this point, it's nothing to do with me.
You're like, the clarity I have today.
Oh yeah. But at that point, I was like, I would end things with him. Like, I'd send him a text and it would say, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. And then I would apologize for being angry with him for something he did. Mm-hmm. But so in August, she texted me, and then it was 2 of them back to back. And the second one said, you know what? Never mind. You're not going to answer me anyway. Have a wonderful day. And I was like, I'm so over you. And I replied back, thanks, I will, Cupcake. Because that's my word. It's kind of like somebody in the South saying, bless your heart.
Oh, I love it.
That's my word, is Cupcake. And I lied. Of course I lied. As she put it, who wouldn't? I'm not having an affair with your husband. I'm not sleeping with your husband. And she just kept going on and on. And that's when I realized she really was stalking my Facebook. I had put a post up about my ex-husband in the beginning of August. I don't know if you're on Facebook, but they have these memories that pop up.
I hate them.
Okay. Well, one popped up, and it was when I was planning my wedding to go to New Orleans with my ex-husband. And I made a post that day, and it said, I can't believe I was number 4. And the person that can see a lie coming 5 miles away fell for it. Like hook, line, and sinker. She thought I was talking about her husband. I was like, excuse me, I was talking about mine. I am his 4th ex-wife. Okay. You need to get a grip. But every time I would say to her, you need to stop, the conversation's done, she would text me again. And I am not the person, as I say, I don't stand down. So if you're going to keep coming at me, I'm going to keep coming back. Mm-hmm. And it went back and forth and back and forth. And finally I'm like, listen, I don't care. Go away. And the last message through text she sent me said, he's told me everything I need to know. You really are crazy. Stop harassing me. And I'm like, this woman's nuts.
Yeah.
They belong together.
I can't imagine why he cheated.
Exactly. But it gets so much worse. You think that's bad? It gets so much worse.
Tell me about the worst part, and then I want to ask you some other questions.
Okay, so the worst part is I ended it with him in November. I emailed her, and I told her everything. Everything. We talked for a day and a half, gave her everything she wanted. She started stalking me on TikTok, created an account to stalk me on TikTok. She'd see a video, she'd email me. She'd see another video, and the videos were like an offhanded comment. I wasn't talking about her. And then I started making those videos. Then I started going live. and she was still stalking me from a second account or a fake account, or she had someone else doing it because she connected with another TikTok user back in March who then started not advocating for her, but harassing me for her, trying to basically slander. I mean, the videos that were put out about me and not about the affair, something totally unrelated, but she kept talking about the wife, the wife, the wife. I got a restraining order against that woman. It was so bad that my local court gave me a restraining order. I gave two threats against my life. And she's still the wife, the wife, they're such lovely people, the wife. And I'm like, you need to just stay out. Like, why are you even in this? And then I started thinking maybe she's a family member that knew when she connected with me, like she knew exactly who she was connecting with. I have no idea, but.
Do you wish you would have gotten the restraining order sooner?
It's not against the wife because I have no proof because she used another person. So the restraining order is against the other person.
Oh my God. An unrelated party?
Yep. Now, in the state of Maryland, it's called a peace order because we were never intimate. And that's a civil matter. But once you violate the restraining order, it becomes a criminal matter. So now I am waiting for the criminal hearing because she violated the civil peace order. And it's, what does this woman have over you that you are pushing so hard to destroy me because her husband cheated on her? Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. I mean, it's insane.
I have some theories as to why wives end up directing all of their attention to the other woman in the situation, but I would love to hear what you think she was gratifying or even trying to accomplish by harassing you. If you are the other woman in your relationship and you love this podcast, you would love the Other Women community. The Other Women community is a membership program designed to help other women just like you reclaim their relationship with themselves and heal from their affair. We provide a safe and supportive environment for you to open up and talk about your experiences. We give you the tools and resources you need to grow into an authentic, empowered individual. If you're ready to take the next step in your healing journey, head on over to theotherwomanandthewife.com/community to learn more about the membership and all it has to offer.
I think it originally started, she is very embarrassed about the fact that her husband has now had 5 different affairs. And it's not that he has had the affairs, it's that she has forgiven him and accepted the fact that she was willing to put up with this. I think that was very embarrassing for her. And originally she wanted to make sure that I wasn't telling people who they were, which I haven't. But, and I've said this, legally, I have the right to tell everybody who he was. He was my ex-boyfriend. Does not want her adult daughters to find out that their father is a cheater. And she's just, I know that it must be very humiliating for her, but you're allowing it. You're allowing it.
I'm so confused as to why. I mean, I guess there's a lot I don't understand, that's for sure. But this whole like, oh my God, if the kids find out that an adult stepped outside of the marriage and had a relationship with another consenting adult, everything becomes tarnished and ruined. I'm like, no.
So here's the thing. And I actually, in one of my lives last week, I had a therapist, an actual therapist who specializes in infidelity. And this was the perspective from her. A lot of people, whether it be man or woman, they don't want their adult children to know because, first of all, it's very possible that those children will then alienate the parent that stepped out and be like, how could you have hurt our mother this way or our father this way? But the other side of it is, now I have sons, but if I had daughters and I tolerated my husband, their father, stepping outside of the marriage over and over and over again, then that would make my daughters question everything that I've taught them. Because if I'm willing to put up with it, then how could you as my mother say, don't ever tolerate this? Don't ever put up with this.
This is why I think it's so ridiculous. It's the child that's in that home can feel it anyways. Like if there's a lack of connection between the two parents, child.
Oh, I agree. And that's why I've always said better to raise them in 2 happy homes than 1 unhappy home. And
Absolutely.
I mean, this woman, I almost feel bad because there is something seriously not right. And I don't know if it's brought on by his behavior. I don't know if his behavior was brought on by her behavior. I have so many emails from her and I posted them on TikTok. Like I actually have a file that's called The Truth and it's emails back and forth and it's text messages between him and I. She created a fake account and shared messages. I sent her screenshots, but only shared my side. Now she also started stalking my sister who reached out to me and she was like, oh, you got to check this out. And the account is gone now, but she called it the pathetic wife. Or actually it was pathetic wife. So as soon as my sister, because this person, pathetic wife, followed her and she of course went on the account and she called me. She's like, you got to look at this. So I looked at it and the message was me saying to him, I knew what I was getting into when this first started, but I have to tell you that this is not going to end well for me. And I am going to wind up being hurt all over again or something to that effect. She shared that. Okay. Now I'm going to share your husband's message, which is, I'm never leaving you. I don't ever want to be without you. We can do this all day, cupcake, all day long, because I have all of the messages from your husband. You are not going to make me look out to be the bad guy. This other creator on TikTok and my friends and my supporters were sending me the videos that she was posting and the comments between the wife and her. She blames me more than she blames her husband. Your husband signed up for a dating website because he was either one, so unhappy in your marriage that he felt he had no other choice but to get out, but not get out, or he's just a crappy person, in which case, either way, blame him. I was not that. I didn't pursue him. I didn't chase him. I wanted answers from him. I wanted respect from him. But lady, get a grip. Get a grip.
I hear you. Yeah, the whole like looking to blame somebody else for the state of your marriage is wild to me. As someone who has endured marriage not once, but twice, and currently married for, I don't even know, I think 10 years. I'm like looking at the date. Yeah. If I were to like look at somebody else and be like, you're the problem as to why my marriage doesn't function the way that I want it to, I think that I really need to come to grips with reality. Like nobody else can be responsible for my marriage.
Right. You know, there was a comment left to you on the video that you were commenting back and forth. And I've been thinking about that comment all day long.
What?
All day long. It was, I don't remember exactly what she said, but basically that you support infidelity and lying and betrayal.
Oh.
And so, but here's the thing. I thought about this today and I'm like, back in the 40s and the 50s, divorce was like taboo, right? You didn't want to admit that you were divorced. Now, in this day and age, divorce is still taboo, but not because of public perception of the divorce. It is because we think it is acceptable for society to create an atmosphere of fear. If you leave, you will not see your children anymore. If you leave, I will take everything you own. So it's almost, even though it's not easier because emotionally it's more energy to have an affair, but it's almost easier with the hopes that you're not going to get caught than battling it out in court and worrying about custody and child support. We as a society have created this stigma that we each have power over another person. And sometimes in the marriage, it's financial or children or property. People need to have conversations because, and I know I've seen a lot of people say there's no expiration date on a marriage. I saw that one of yours where somebody commented, no, you know what? There's no expiration date, but sometimes people grow apart.
Yeah.
And I actually read an article and I can't quote where it was from, but it was talking about when people get married younger in life and it's the honeymoon phase, that first year, unless of course you have a child within the first year. And then you worry about things like buying a house and finances and child upbringing and soccer games and dance classes and paying bills. And this one's got an ear infection. By the time your children have moved out and they're on their own or they're in college or whatever, you look at your partner and you say, who are you?
Yeah.
I don't even know who you are anymore. Those are situations that can create infidelity.
Mhm.
Those are the situations that can cause divorce because sometimes you just don't know each other anymore. And I know if there was somebody in my life that I felt I had nothing in common with anymore, and I really had, although I cared about them, I didn't have a strong connection to them, they probably wouldn't be in my life.
Yeah.
So that's my
You know, it's
perspective.
funny that comment kind of sat on your head so long because whenever that comment would come to me in the early days of content creation, I sat there and I thought about it and I was like, could this be true? How could this be true? I really do. I take in the commentary and really try to process it completely. I'm like, if this was true, why didn't my affair last longer than 3 months?
Right.
And I'm like, and if this were true, like, why didn't I have a second affair? And like to say that I support infidelity is so short-sighted. And I think the truth of it is I support people who encounter infidelity.
Right. And I actually, I mean, you've seen it. I'm always advocating on your behalf. Like
I love it.
there's a difference between saying I support infidelity and trying to educate people that it is not cut and dry. It is not black and white. Are there people that go out looking for a married person? Absolutely there are. You know what? Sometimes it's easier. You do your thing. I'll do mine. We'll get together. Have a great night. You can spend some money on me and then go your own way.
Mutual risk.
Right. But most of them are not like that. And I really, when I see your stuff, because when I first saw it, I questioned that too. Like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly am I seeing?
We're working on brand identity right now.
That's awesome. But the more I watched it, the more I'm like, no. She is trying to educate people that infidelity is not black and white and I do the same thing. Each person involved is a person and the betrayed spouse and the affair partner can be hurt just as much.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I admitted last week when I was telling my story again, when we had the lady in there, the counselor, and I said, this one, my marriage didn't break me. I always say, knock me down 27 times, I'm getting up 28. This guy almost broke me.
Oh.
I mean, at the end, the day that I knew, as I like to say, I had to blow things up. In order for it to end, I had to drop the grenade and walk away. Because otherwise he was going to keep coming back. I love you. I miss you. And I was so attached to him. And I know now that it was a trauma bonding. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, you know what, Kyle? You're just going to drop the grenade. You're going to walk away. And I emailed him and I ended it. And then he never acknowledged it. I was getting the random text messages. Hey, babe, how are you? Hey, beautiful. I love you, blah, blah, blah. The 2 days after Thanksgiving, 3 days, it was November the 26th. Now, I had messaged her at the phone number that I had, which I know was a fake phone number. And the message said, if this is still who I think it is, I will be sending you an email at the email address I found, telling you the whole story. That did not end back in July. It ended 2 weeks ago. And I got no response, but he started texting me and she unblocked me from Facebook. So I know she got it. Mm-hmm. So I sat on my bed that morning and I sent an email because I'm like, if I have the wrong email, somebody's going to get an email saying I'm sleeping with your husband. So let's verify. So I sent an email that said, please confirm this is who I think it is. And she confirmed back. And then he started texting me. And I sat there and I stared at my phone. And it gets me choked up because it's still like, this is still the raw part for me. I looked at it and I said, as soon as I hit send, it's done. Like, that's it. It's done. And I was crying and I hit send and then I called my sister. I was hysterical. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have just walked away. And she's like, he wasn't going to let you walk away. Mm-hmm. And then he sent me 80 text messages over 2 hours. calling me everything you could think of. I was evil. I was Hamas. I needed to find God and beg forgiveness. I destroyed his marriage. I was going to be alone for the rest of my life. That's my curse. I
Okay, I
don't
hate
want,
him now.
I'm telling you, he is definitely, and that's the thing. And that's why she is so embarrassed and so set on me being silent, because he is not the good, kind-hearted guy that she wants him to be. He's not. He's actually a horrible human being. Because
That's
if he can,
awful.
yeah, if he can do that to someone, he actually, now spelling it out, he didn't come out and threaten me directly. But any logical human being, when they hear someone say, remember, revenge is a dish best served cold,
Yes.
that means keep watching over your shoulder, because
Mhm.
it's coming. And I was just like, okay, this is who this person really is. Not all of the I love yous, I don't want to be without yous. This
That's
is who this
awful.
person is. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a reaction really out of fear. Like he probably thought that he could coerce her into making a decision that he wanted her to make, which was, don't take me for all I'm worth.
You know what? And I hope she does. I really, at this point, I hope she does. But then again, seeing her behavior,
Yeah.
I hope they stay together for the rest of their lives, to be honest
I
with you.
keep
And then
my
they,
wants for me. Let's keep our wants for us, Colleen. What do we want for you? Tell me a little bit about what the first positive thing you did, because it almost sounds like that second guessing you did. You were like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have. I'm in absolute disarray. But do
the,
you think that was the first positive thing you did for yourself? And
absolutely, absolutely it was.
good.
After coming out of my marriage, I don't want to say, it sounds so contradictory. I don't want to say my ex-husband was a bad guy. He was a bad husband. He doesn't know how to be a husband, which is why I was number 4. But he would help people when it benefited him, type of thing. But I spent 9 years isolated and alone, very little even conversation with him. I lost friendships because of him. So coming out of that and going right into this other mess, now I'm at the point where I tell people say, are you dating? No. Why not? Because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to. It's not that I can't. I'm not going to become one of those people that say, no, I hate men so much that I'm better off alone. I don't want to right now. I'm focusing on me.
I tend to ask people because they always want to jump into the dating conversation. I'm like, maybe they're just choosing to be single. Like, why isn't being single enough type thing?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We actually talked about this one night during one of my broadcasts. And I said, right now, my focus is, so I work about 100 hours a week. I work a regular full-time job. And then I put a good 60 hours a week into my TikTok, into my channel and my platform, and helping other people. I'm also taking my classes for my master's degree. My goal is after my master's to get my PhD in comparative religion with a focus on spiritual counseling. I want somebody to tell me where there is time to go out to dinner on a date when I am doing all of this. There's just, I want to do for me right now.
You're investing so much into yourself. I love this. It went from,
absolutely.
The conversations of which house are we going to sell or buy to which degree do I want to get? And
exactly.
I love that for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I still help people. I mean, I still put a lot of focus on other people, but that's because I want to help them, not because I feel I have to.
It's also just because it sounds like you're naturally a helpful person.
It is. There's kind of a joke amongst all of my friends because I am a pagan minister. But when I was 13, I was going to be a nun. And it was, wait a minute, you missed a fair partner. We're going to be a nun. Yeah, well, things happen.
Yeah, no, I had my own religious ties for a while and thought I would be some things that I definitely wasn't supposed to be. I turned out A-okay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I made the decision when I was 13 that was not my life's course. But my life's course is to help people. So now I do it because I want to and not because it's expected of me or because I feel I have to.
That's
And
beautiful.
my focus is on me. And I always tell people, and this is really important, when you stop looking is when you find your person or they find you. So
Somebody said something to me recently, and it really profoundly did change my life because I won't get into the weeds, but they said, whatever you're seeking is seeking you.
actually, let me tell you something. I was driving my car one day and I had this epiphany and I thought to myself, I sit and I think sometimes like, where is my person? I know what I want in a person. I know what I can accept, what I cannot accept, because there's nobody perfect. It's just two imperfect people that fit together perfectly. And then I stopped and I was like, and you know what? My person is out there thinking the exact same thing right now. And when things line up, that's when we will cross paths. Right now, they're not aligned. And until they are, I'm not going to focus on it. I'm not going to focus on it.
I do think that learning how to channel your focus was one of the big learning curves after my affair. And I really started to harness that into just daily activities, even while I was brushing my teeth. What was I thinking about? Was I really focused on the task at hand and what I wanted it to result in? Or was I just mindlessly going through the motions on autopilot? And so once I figured out how to direct my attention a little bit better, it really made for quite the existence.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember telling my ex-husband, because I'm an artist. I don't know if you've seen, I do a giveaway every Sunday. You put your name in the raffle and it's a painting. It's an original painting. And I'm like, I'm a real artist. Like I've sold my paintings. And I remember one time my girlfriend said, when are you going to paint again? And this was when I was married. And I said, I can't paint when I'm not happy because I can't see what I want to paint. And then I thought to myself, I'm never happy. So I need to kind of like refocus that. And then I started painting to make me happy. And I mean, my whole house, my son is like, Mom, there's paintings. You could tell this is an artist's house. And I'm like, I just love doing it. So why not do it when I'm sad to make me happy? Like I refocus. So yeah. And I encourage people to do that. Find something that you thought you couldn't do until you were happy and make yourself do it. Because you'll learn that that's going to turn you around.
Yeah, it'll drive your happiness for you.
Exactly.
Colleen, we're about to finish up, and I want to thank you so much for using your voice to stand in the way of toxic narratives that keep people down. Like you can steal somebody's spouse. Jesus.
Yeah.
But I adore you for speaking up on a topic that very few people are and coming alongside me and supporting me in this mission. Are there any final thoughts or stories you want to share with our listeners?
No, I mean, I want you to know that I definitely stand beside you. I do. And I'm just going to keep crushing on those negative comments and pointing out the flaws in what people are saying.
The flaws are what get me. They're the most entertaining. The flaw in logic. I'm like, this can't be true because of a very simple statement. And then I get no response back. And then I'm like, who am I really serving here?
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I'll do it for you because I have fun with it. And people love my New York accent and the whole roll and troll. Thank you.
I love it. You're a total vibe. You're babe.
I used to have a coworker that said to me, when you walk in the room, it's like I don't go flying in because energetically it's like a ball of fire. People know that you're there without you saying a word. And I'm like, that's just me. That's me. And now I'm taking TikTok by storm. And
it just goes to show your presence is so important.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So is yours. So is yours. Yeah, thank you. I mean, just watching your stuff definitely kind of helped me to shift my mindset a little bit. Like,
good.
I don't know. I think I started watching it like 2 months ago. And that's when I was like, hey, wait a minute. I don't have to feel bad about being the affair partner. I don't have to wear the scarlet letter. So
when you realize how little control we have on the things that happen to us and the knowledge that we're working off of, I think you can develop a lot more compassion for yourself
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just sitting there and berating yourself doesn't come of anything of productivity. So I'm happy to be that alliance with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I adore you too, Anne-Marie.
Anne Marie's the best. Anne Marie's sitting there being quiet. She's okay. This is on its own little roll.
Listen,
Well,
I
thank you
could
so
talk
much for
for
being
hours.
here. I
Thank you
love
for
it. And I
having
would
me.
actually love to schedule a private chat with you sometime, especially if I'm ever in the New York area. Or if you're in California, let me know. I'll come
I
and
will
find you.
never be in California. So if you're in New York, you let me know and I will
Why
come there.
not? Why would you never be in California?
I took one flight to Seattle from New York and it was the most torturous flight of my life. Like, I have issues. I can't sit for 8 hours in a stretch. And it was just so much torture for me. So if you're
Okay,
ever in New York, you let
I'll
me
come to New
know.
York. I'll come to
And
New
and
York.
I will drive up from Maryland to New York and we
I
will have
love
lunch
you.
or something.
Yes, we definitely will. Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast episode. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts on it. If you've made it this far, you're likely someone who is invested in the journey of being the other woman. We understand that this can be a difficult and complex experience, which is why we offer guided coaching to help you heal and move forward. We encourage you to explore the links in the episode description or visit theotherwomanandthewife.com/coaching to learn more about our exclusive coaching program and apply today. Thank you again for your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.